this unit is dynamically induced EMF, statically induced EMF. So in statically induced EMF, we have self and mutually induced EMF. So this topic is whatever I have highlighted in red color, it's an important topic. So we have problems on mutually induced EMF, which is very, very important. And next is inductance. Under inductance, we are going to see inductance of solenoid, toroid, coaxial cable, transmission line. And apart from this, energy and energy density of an inductor. So in the last unit, third unit, we have seen what is magnetic field. And in the first and second unit, we have just seen what is electric field. So based on that, we'll just see what is the difference between magnetic and electric circuit. So in magnetic circuit, so whenever there is a closed path here, there will be a flux travel here. In electric circuit, whenever there is a closed path, there will be a flow of current here. So according to magnetic circuit, your Ohm's law is going to be flux is equal to MMF per reluctance, whereas in electric circuit, current is equal to EMF per resistance. So I can just relate that is voltage V equal to IR. So that is what I have discussed here. So your EMF is replaced by MMF here, resistance is replaced by reluctance here, and current by flux here. So the unit of flux is going to be Weber, unit of current is Ampere here. And in magnetic circuit, we have Ampere's law. Based on Ampere's law, the equation MMF is equal to integral of H into dl, and similarly EMF is equal to integral of E into dl. And reluctance is nothing but which opposes the flow of magnetic flux, and resistance opposes the flow of current here. So reluctance is given as L divided by area into permeability, and resistivity into length by area. So the reciprocal of reluctance, we call it as permeance. Reciprocal of resistance, we call it as conductance. And here we have permeability mu, and there we have conductivity. And in magnetic circuit, reluctivity, and in electric circuit, resistivity. And in magnetic field, flux density equal to flux per area. Current density in electric circuit is equal to current per area. So magnetic field intensity H is equal to Ni by L. Ni is called as MMF per unit length. And electric density E is equal to voltage per distance. And MMF drop can be, this is nothing but your Ohm's law. MMF is equal to flux into reluctance here, and voltage drop V is equal to I into R. So coming to your Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So you all know that. So whenever there is a change of flux, a voltage is being induced in the circuit. So we have two types of induced EMF here. One is dynamically induced EMF, and another one is statically induced EMF. So dynamically induced EMF is nothing but, so for producing an EMF, we need two main parts. One is magnetic field, and another one is the conductor here. So when I say both the conductors, either your conductor is moving, magnetic field is stationary, or else your conductor is stationary, magnetic field is moving. In such case, whatever voltage is induced, that I call it as a dynamically induced EMF. So in statically induced EMF, both the conductor and the magnetic field, it remains stationary. So example for dynamically induced EMF is generator. An example for statically induced EMF is transformer. So this is dynamically induced EMF. As I said before, we have conductor in the middle, it's a single turn conductor, and magnetic field that is travels from north to south pole here. So either the physical moment of conductor with respect to magnetic field, or moment of magnet with respect to stationary conductor, we call it as a dynamically induced EMF. And this is a picture. So I can, example for dynamically induced EMF, you can either go for DC generator or an alternator. So when you go for DC generator, your voltage is DC here. In alternator, you will have a sinusoidal AC EMF. The operation remains the same in both the cases here. In case of when you go for a generator, DC generator, commutator will be present. In case of alternator, commutator is replaced by slip ring. I think you must have learned this topic in electrical technology. The same concept we are going to learn it in terms of electromagnetic field. Yes, so coming to voltage equation. So as I said, so when the conductor, so in this diagram, so we have a single turn conductor which is placed in the magnetic field. So whenever the conductor starts rotating, it cuts the magnetic field. So when it cuts the magnetic field, there will be a change in flux which induces an EMF. So this EMF will always be opposite to that of the supply voltage here. So that is what written at the bottom. You can just see V is equal to minus integral of E into dl. So this is what we have derived in the first unit, potential equation. So a EMF, whatever induced on the generator, will be opposite to the supply voltage. So I am writing that as E is equal to minus V. You can just see at the bottom of the slide. So EMF opposes the supply voltage according to your Lenz's law here. So I can say that E is nothing but it is integral of E into dl. So we are supposed to find what is E. So going back to the next step, previous step, you can just see E is equal to F by force per unit charge. So we have to find what is force. So coming back to the diagram here, you can just see. So whenever, this is similar to your motor diagram. So whenever there is a current carrying conductor placed in the presence of magnetic field, there is a force induced on the circuit. That is what indicated in the diagram. Q stands for your charge. So when the charge is moving with the velocity V, in the presence of magnetic field B, a force is being developed. So all the three are perpendicular to each other. So I can write F is equal to QV cross B as it is perpendicular here. So you can just write F is nothing but QV cross B here. So this equation E is substituted in EMF equation. So in the next step, you can just see. So E can be substituted V cross B into DL. So we know that A cross and DL, when you integrate DL, it becomes L here. So A cross B can also be written as AB sine theta. So EMF is equal to BLV sine theta. So when theta is 0, your voltage is 0. When theta is 90 degree, your voltage is maximum. So this is what indicates in your diagram also. When the single turn coil, when it is 0 degree voltage, that is when it is parallel to the magnetic field, the voltage induced is 0. When it is perpendicular to the magnetic field, the voltage induced will be maximum. So we'll go for statically induced EMF. So in statically induced EMF, both the conductor and magnetic field are stationary here. So you will have a question. So if both are going to be stationary, how come there will be a change in flux? So the answer is nothing but the current passing through your coil, it should keep on changing here. So changing of current can be given only with the help of alternating source here. So whenever your coil is being connected with an alternating current here, I can say the flux also changes with respect to current. So when there is a change in flux, automatically voltage is induced here. So that is what meant in the second line. The magnetic field is changing due to change of its current. Hence an EMF is induced. So E can be written as N into d phi by dt. And we know that phi can be written as according to your flux density. It is flux per area. So from that, I can write flux is nothing but flux density into area. So integral of B into ds. So that is what I have written. So N, we are taking that as 1. So d by dt, when it goes inside the integral part, it becomes partial derivative, that is dou by dou t of B into ds. So in this equation, E is equal to minus integral of dou B by dou t into ds. So we know that E is nothing but it is opposite to the supply voltage. Hence I can write E is equal to integral of E into dl. So, so we have the equation as E is equal to integral of E into dl, which is equal to minus double integral of dou B by dou t into ds here. And according to the Stokes theorem here, a line integral can be written in the form of surface integral with the curl of that particular vector. So here integral of E into dl can be written as double integral of curl of that particular vector, that is E into dx here, which is equal to minus dou b by dou t into ds. So from the comparison between the second and third part, I can write del cross E is equal to minus dou b by dou t. So we have just done the derivation for dynamically and statically induced system based on your magnetic field equation. So that is what, so here also we have explained here dynamically and next here statically. So when it comes under statically induced EMF, we have two types here. One is self-induced EMF, another one is mutually induced EMF. So in case of self-induced, the word itself will tell you the change in current in the same coil will induce a EMF in the same coil here. So a EMF induced in the coil due to change of its own current, I call it as a self-induced EMF. So the equation can be written as, so E can be written as, so that is what in the diagram we can just see current is passed through the coil, a flux is produced here, phi. So I can write d phi by dt, change in flux produces a voltage here. So the proportionality sign is replaced by the constant n. N is nothing but number of turns of the coil. So n into d phi by dt. So this can be written as d by dt of n pi. And one more equation you can just see in the right hand side of it. I have just made it as a 2 column. So E is proportional to, and we know that current is proportional to flux. So this pi is replaced by I here. So it is di by dt. So which can also be written as proportionality sign, replacing that L into di by dt. So when you compare equation 1 and 2, I can write n phi is equal to L into I here. So from that L is equal to n phi I by I. So n into phi, I call it as a flux linkage here. So the definition for self-inductance, I can call it as flux linkage in one coil to the current in the same coil, the definition of inductance. So inductance, unit of inductance is nothing but Henry here. So remember this equation because this equation is going to be used in the forthcoming topics here. That is, we are going to see what will be the inductance of toroid, coaxial cable, transmission line, everything, right? So remember, flux linkage is nothing but N into phi here. So mutually induced EMF. So we have two coil, primary and secondary. To the primary, we are connecting alternating voltage source, and I1 is the current passing through the first coil, and which produces a flux of phi1. So part of the flux which is linking the first coil will also link with the second coil, which I call it as phi12, and number of turns in the secondary is N2. So due to the change in current I1, there will be a change in flux phi12 also. So there will be a voltage induced in the secondary circuit also. So that I call it as a mutually induced EMF, EM. So coming back to the equation, so EM can be written as proportional to, now what is the flux produced in the secondary coil? Phi12. So I can call the definition of mutually induced EMF is nothing but EMF induced in a coil due to change in current in the neighboring coil. That is the EMF induced in the second coil due to change in current in the first coil, and vice versa. It can be on the other way also. So the voltage equation, we are just going to frame it for the secondary side. So your secondary flux is nothing but d, that is phi12. So I can write it as d by dt of phi12. And the proportionality sign is replaced as n2 into d phi12 by dt. And coming to the right part of the column, you can just see, as I said, your flux is proportional to current. So going back to the diagram here, this flux phi12 is produced by the current I1 of the primary circuit. So I can write it is proportional to I1 by dt. So proportionality sign is replaced by M here. So comparing 1 and 2, I can write the equation as M is equal to N2 phi12 I1 here. So I can say the definition of mutual inductance. So M is called as mutual inductance, and we know that N and phi called to be a flux linkage. So the definition here is going to be the ratio of flux linkage in the second coil to the current in the first coil. That I call it as a mutual inductance. Next comes the coefficient of coupling here. So coefficient of coupling is nothing but a part of the flux that is linking one coil to the flux in the first coil, or vice versa. So in general, I can say part of the flux linking neighboring coil to the flux in the same coil here. So, and since from the equation we can understand your K value will be less than 1 because the denominator term is going to be higher when compared to the numerator term here. So when I say K equal to 1, which means that whatever flux that is linking the first coil, all the flux is going to link the second coil, which means that the entire setup is an ideal setup. So keeping this equation in mind, we are just going to derive the equation of coefficient of coupling K in terms of mutual inductance and self-inductance here. So so we can just write M. M can be written in two ways here. That is by connecting a voltage source in the primary side and leaving the secondary side open, or else in secondary side we can connect a voltage source and calculate what is the EMF in the primary side. So based on both the diagrams, we have two equations. That is what I have mentioned, 1 and 2. M is equal to N2 phi12 by I1, or else M can be written as N1 phi21 by I2. So multiplying these two equations, I can write it as M square N1 N2 phi12 phi21 I12. So this phi21 and phi12 can be replaced from the equation A and B. So now you just see the equation. From that, your phi12 can be written as K into phi1, and phi21 can be written as K into phi2 here. So substitute both the equations here. So you'll end up with K square N1 phi1 I1, K N2 phi2 I2. And we know that N1 phi1 I1 can be written as self-inductance, that is L1, and similarly that one is L2 here. So from that, K can be written as M divided by square root of L1, L2 here. So this is a basic relation. So coefficient of coupling may be asked as a 2-mark question. So in such case, you can write this equation and explain the definition also. Next is your inductance of solenoid. It may be asked as a 2-mark question, simple derivation only. So in solenoid, we have already seen in the third unit, where your solenoid is nothing but you will have an iron bar in which your copper coil is being wound here. So the length of the solenoid is taken as L here. So the basic formula for magnetic field intensity is H is equal to Ni by L. So from this, so the inductance formula is nothing but, we all know, N phi by I. So we are trying to find what is phi here. So you can just see here. So in the bottom of the slide, the last step, your psi is nothing but N into phi. Your phi can be written as flux density into area, because flux density is phi by A. And mu can be replaced as N into mu into H. Your B can be replaced as mu into H here. Substitute that. And H can be replaced as Ni by L. You can just see at the top that is being substituted. So when you substitute all this, your psi equation becomes mu N square I by L into A here. Now coming back to your inductance equation, it's nothing but total flux linkage divided by total current here. So mu N square I by L into A divided by, when you just divide these two, you'll end up with L is equal to mu N square A by L. So this is the inductance of a solenoid. Remember, A is nothing but area of cross section of the solenoid, and L is the length of the solenoid. And next is inductance of a toroid. So toroid is nothing but you'll have a circular iron ring in which your coil is being wound here. So whenever you pass a current through the coil, a flux is being created, and that flux will take a path through the core here. So I have written capital R here. Remember, your capital R meant for mean length of the flux path here. so that flux will travel through your core. So that path is taken as R here. And we have small r also, which is used as a radius of the your circular ring here. That is nothing but when you go for cross-sectional area of the circular ring, it is A is nothing but pi r square. So the small r represents the area of the ring here. Your capital R represents the path of the flux that crosses your iron ring here. So coming back to your inductance of the toroid, you just see the bottom equation. L is nothing but total flux linkage divided by total current here. So your flux is nothing but N into phi. So once again we are finding what is pi here. So go back to the first step. So phi can be written as B into area, and B is replaced as mu into H here, and H is nothing but Ni by L here. And what is L now? L is nothing but your mean length of the fluxed path. So your mean length of the flux path represents your circumference here, which is nothing but 2 pi into capital R here. So we are replacing L as, in the fourth step, you can just see. So L can be replaced as 2 pi capital R here. So substitute your psi in the L equation. So you'll end up with the N square. So II will get cancelled. You will have the equation as N square mu A divided by 2 pi R. That is the inductance of a toroid here. And inductance of a coaxial cable. This is also might be asked in university question paper. So coaxial cable, we have two conductors here, one with a small radius of A and other with a larger radius of P here. And current carried by the cable, we are taking it as I here. So your radius R can be, limit of R can be from greater than A to less than B here. I think you have understood. So the limit of radius, it's going to be greater than A, that is inner radius, and lesser than B, the outer radius. So once again, we know that we have written in red color, you can just see. L is nothing but N phi by I. We are trying to find what is pi. So once you know pi, you can substitute in the equation and find the inductance of the coaxial cable. And according to your infinite line conductor, which we have derived in the third unit, H can be written as the magnetic field intensity of a cylindrical conductor can be written as I by 2 pi R. So where R represents the radius here, which is greater than A, less than B here. And B can be written as the relation between B and H is going to be B is equal to mu into H. So I can be written as I by 2 pi R. And we all know that your flux density, it's going to be concentric in nature. So I am taking the vector, unit vector as A pi vector here. So your pi equation can be written as surface integral of B into ds here. And B is nothing but mu I by 2 pi R A phi. So your D, now you just think about what is ds. So ds is nothing but, recollect in the first unit, ds is nothing but area normal to the A phi vector. So since it's a cylindrical conductor, area normal to your cylindrical, remember what are the coordinates? It is R, phi and Z. So the area normal to phi is going to be between R and Z. So your ds is written as dr, dz, d phi. Now substituting both the B equation and ds equation in phi, the next slide. So you can just see it is mu I by 2 pi R A pi dr dz A phi here. And the limit of dr is going to be from A to B, and the limit of Z is going to be 0 to D here. D is nothing but, go back to the diagram, D is nothing but length of the coaxial cable here. So I have indicated in the diagram here D. So your Z is going to be 0 to D here. Now you just integrate it. So 1 by R, when you integrate it, becomes ln R, that is log R. And Z, when you Z is going to be, when you integrate it, So it's a constant term. So it becomes d here. So it is mu I d by 2 pi ln of, when you substitute upper limit by lower limit, it becomes b by a here. So inductance of a coaxial cable formula will be n phi by I. N we are just taking here to be 1. So the equation becomes phi by I substituted. We'll end up with this equation. L is nothing but mu d divided by 2 pi ln b by A. And inductance of coaxial cable may be expressed per unit length also, because the previous equation L is in Henry. I told you in the third unit also, the capacitance of a cable, capacitance of a transmission line, everything is written in the form of farad per meter. So here also your cable, the inductance of the cable can also be written as Henry per meter here. So I can write this equation as, so taking the distance to the denominator, so I can write inductance per distance is equal to mu by 2 pi ln b by A. So which is Henry per meter. So the next topic, it's going to be inductance of two-wire transmission line. The question may be like this also in university sometimes. So inductance of a single phase transmission line, or else they may ask the question as inductance of a two parallel conductors or inductance of two-wire transmission line. So whatever it may be asked, the derivation is going to be the same here. So before moving to the derivation of inductance of two-wire transmission line, we have to know what is the internal and external flux linkage. Because L is nothing but N phi by I, whereas N phi can be written as phi by I. N phi is nothing but flux linkage. So we are trying to find what is the flux linkage of a single conductor within the conductor as well as outside the conductor here. I hope you have understood what I am trying to say. Yes. So in a long strained conductor, suppose before considering two conductors here, we are just trying to consider only one conductor. With that conductor, we are trying to find what is internal flux as well as external flux. Remember, this equation is very, very important. You will get it as a 16 mark. So we'll just see flux linkage of a conductor due to internal flux here. Now have considered a conductor of radius r, small r here. So we are going to use Ampere's law now. So Ampere's law is nothing but integral of h into dl is equal to I. Now I am going to construct an Ampere loop which is having a radius of x small x here. So we have to find what is the current passing within the circle of radius x here, because we know that current carried by the entire conductor is I, capital I here. But we don't know what is the current that is passing through the Ampere loop which is of radius x here. So for that, I told you in the third unit also, we have to consider one assumption. I hope you can recollect it. So that assumption is nothing but your current density. We are assuming the current density to be equal throughout the conductor surface here. So by considering that concept here, now you can just see at bottom of the slide I have written. So by considering the radius to be, yes, by considering the radius to be x here, the current passing through the conductor, I am assuming that current as Ix here. So it is Ix by pi x square. Current density formula you all know, current by area. So it is Ix divided by area of that Ampere loop is pi x square. And similarly, current that is passing through the entire conductor R is going to be I divided by pi r square. So since we have assumed current density R equal here, so equating these two equations, Ix can be written as I by pi r square by x square, or else Ix square by r square. Now we have calculated what is the current enclosed in the Ampere loop here. And we all know that Ampere, Yes. So H can be written as I by L. L is nothing but 2 pi into R distance here. So from this I can be written as Ix square by R square, which we have done in the previous slide. You can just see Ix square R square, and your distance L can be written as 2 pi X here. And flux density B can be written as, for that ampere loop, Bx can be written as mu naught mu R into Hx here. Whereas mu R is for a non-magnetic material, it is taken as 1. So we rewrite the equation as mu naught into Hx. So where Hx is nothing but Ix divided by 2 pi R square. And we'll just go over the flux density now, flux now. So the flux crossing that, once again you consider the structure of the conductor to be a cylindrical one, as your transmission line conductors are cylindrical. Let us take the radial thickness to be dx, see the diagram, and the length to be L. So I am considering length here as 1 meter. So your flux d phi can be written as flux density into dA. That is what I have written near the diagram. So area can be written as length into this radial thickness, which is 1 into dx here. So you can substitute B in this equation d phi here. You will have the equation as mu naught Ix by 2 pi Rx square into dx here. Now, once again, when you go back to the diagram here, now I have to find what is the current that is passing the radial, which has to be considered for the radius x here. So that is what I have written. But this flux links only with the current lying within the circle of radius x. So whatever flux we have calculated here, that is going to be only for the circle of radius x here. So which is nothing but for the circle of radius x, what is the current we have calculated? Ix here. So I am trying to replace I to be Ix once again here. So you replace I in d phi equation. D phi equation, we have I, that I is replaced as Ix now. So that is what you can see here, Ix here. So when you substitute here, and we have already calculated what is Ix in the previous case. So which is nothing but Ix square by R square. So once again you substitute it here. So Ix square by R square, when you substitute it, you will get it as d phi to be. So you know why I have written here. So your flux linkage d phi can be written as n into phi. So n can be equal to 1 in case of transmission line. Number of turns we have taken it as 1. So I can rewrite the equation. D phi is nothing but d psi here. So substitute that d phi in the equation, you will end up with d psi is equal to mu naught I x cube dx divided by 2 pi r power 4 here. So this is a small flux linkage here, but we are supposed to find what is the flux linkage within the conductor here. So your d phi, so whatever we have calculated as the last step, we are integrating. When you integrate it, you will get it as psi, which is equal to integral of mu naught I x cube divided by 2 pi r power 4 into dx. And we should know what is the limit of x here. And you know, from the diagram, the limit of x is nothing but x can be from 0 to r here. So from the diagram, so you just substitute the limit to be 0 to r. When you integrate it, x cube, when you integrate, it becomes x power 4 by 4. By substituting the limit r, will end up with mu naught I by 8 pi. So this is the flux linkage of the internal flux. Now you see the unit I have written as Weber turns, because the flux linkage is nothing but n into phi. N stands for turns and phi stands for Weber. And you have the question why I have per meter, because now go back to this one, because here I have considered in the diagram, you can just see I have considered L to be 1 meter here. So the unit becomes Weber turns per meter. So coming to the next one, flux linkage of the conductor due to external flux. So when it goes to external flux, you can just imagine what will be the limit of x. X can be greater than r here. So that is what I have taken here. So you can just see x is greater than r I have taken here. So I have considered conductor here of radius r, and I am going to calculate what is the external flux at this particular point x here. So the external distance, I am taking two external distance, d1, d2. So in the derivation, you can also try your own derivation by taking x to be from here, r to this distance d2. Or you can consider this distance to be d also. That is up to you. Yes. So the field distance at any distance x from the center of the conductor, Hx can be given as I by 2 pi x here, because when you consider x to be greater than r, in such case Hx can be written as I by 2 pi x here. So from that, mu x can be written as mu naught Hx here, and h, you know that I divided by h is nothing but mu naught I by 2 pi x, and you have to know what is I here. Why? Because when you are considering, if you go back to the diagram, we have considered the entire external radius to be x here. So the current enclosed within the radius x is nothing but capital I here. So I have considered that to be I divided by 2 pi x here. So once again, the same derivation, whatever you have done in internal flux, no, the same derivation is being repeated here. So d phi can be written as flux into area here. So this area can be written as dx into 1 here. So your bx we have already done. It is mu naught I by 2 pi x here. So when you substitute it, you will get it as mu naught I by 2 pi x dx here. So the limit here, when you integrate on both sides, this becomes psi, which is external here. The limit here, it is d1 to d2, external thing, mu naught I by 2 pi x. So when you integrate 1 by x, you will get it as ln x. By substituting the limit, you will get it as ln d2 by d1. So now we have done two derivation. One is internal flux linkage, another one is external flux linkage here. So inductance of two-wire transmission line. So coming back to that, we have two wire transmission line. So the conductor radius, conductor A is having a radius of R1, conductor B is having a radius of R2 here. And each is carrying a current of plus I and minus I, and both are being separated by a distance T. So now coming to the first conductor, now you just consider the conductor A alone. For the conductor A, we are finding what will be the internal and external flux linkage. So I am writing that as psi A. You just see psi A is equal to psi external plus psi internal here. Psi external can be written as mu naught I by 2 pi ln d2 by d1, which you have already derived in the last section. So you can just see d2 by d1. So instead of d2 here in the diagram, we have this distance d. Instead of d1, we have this radius r1 here. So I am substituting that as d by r1. So for internal flux linkage, it is mu naught I by 8 pi, which we have already done. So by adding these two, we'll end up with the equation mu naught I by 2 pi ln d by r1, mu naught I by 8 pi here. So mu naught I by 2 pi, you can take it as a common term out. You'll get it as ln d by r1 plus 1 by 4 here. So the flux linkage of conductor A can be written as psi A by I. So I will get cancelled here. So you'll end up with this equation here. And similarly, when you go for inductance of conductor B, the equation becomes mu naught I by 1 by 4 plus ln, instead of R1, you will have R2 here. So the loop inductance, suppose in the question, if they ask any problems in that, if they ask you to find what is the loop inductance of the transmission line, in such case, L is nothing but LA plus LB. So add both the terms, you'll end up with this equation 1 by 2 ln d square by r1 r2 into mu naught by 2 pi. So this derivation is very, very important. Go through the derivation. And the last topic here, it is energy stored in magnetic field. So energy stored in magnetic field, we all know that, go back to this one, energy is nothing but power into time here. So power can also be written as voltage into current here. And we know voltage is nothing but L into di by dt for an inductor into I into dt. So when you, this part can also be written as L into I di. So this is the work done, or I call it as energy here. So the limit of di stands for, it starts from current 0 to the charging current I here. So when you integrate these two, you'll get this I. When you integrate, it becomes I square by 2. Substitute the limit 0 to capital I, you will get it as 1 by 2 Li square, which is the energy stored in the inductor. Remember, in the second unit, we have just seen what is the energy stored in the capacitor, which is 1 by 2. Instead of L, we have C. Instead of current, we add V. So 1 by 2, the CV square we have seen for capacitor here. And similarly, so this equation can also be written as L into I into I. You can just split it like that. So L into I can also be written as psi here. So the energy equation can also be written as 1 by 2 psi into I. So next is energy density. When I say energy density, it is the energy stored per unit volume here. So energy stored is 1 by 2 Li square, and so we know what is L. L is nothing but N phi by I. Phi is replaced as B into A. B is replaced as mu into H. H is replaced as Ni by L. So when you substitute all the term, it becomes mu N square A by L. Now once again substitute this equation, L equation in energy, will end up with half mu naught N square I square A by L. So I am trying to multiply and divide by L. When you multiply and divide by L, this becomes A into L by L square. So this N square I square by L square can also be written as H. Ni by L is nothing but your magnetic field intensity H here. Now substitute and A into L becomes volume. So volume, take it to the other side, to the left hand side, it becomes volume per, that is energy per volume, which is equal to half mu naught H square. So energy density formula becomes 1 by 2 mu naught H square. So H square, rewrite it as H into H. So mu naught H is written as B into H here. So same thing we have just seen in the capacitor also. In capacitor, energy density is going to be of D into E. Here in magnetic field, it is B into H here. And you all know that it is joules, energy per volume. So it is joules per meter cube here. And we'll just go back to the mutually induced EMF, because the problems will be asked in the mutually induced EMF. So we'll just see one of the problem in transmission line as well as in mutual inductance, which may help you to attempt the 16-mark question. So here, calculate the loop inductance per kilometer of a transmission line comprising of two parallel conductors of 1 meter and 1.25 centimeter in diameter. Also, calculate the reactance of the transmission line, assume frequency 50 Hz here. So this is a formula we have derived here. So here D, the distance between the conductor is given as 1 meter. So D substitute is 1 meter. And the radius of each conductor is given as 1.25. So your R1, R2 both are going to be the same, 1.25 into 10 to the power minus 2. That is diameter. Divide that by 2, you will get the radius and substitute it here. Mu naught, you all know that it is 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7. So when you substitute, it will end up with this equation. Sorry, you will end up with this answer, 2.13 into 10 to the power minus 6 Henry per meter. But here in the question, they are asking you to calculate the inductance per kilometer. So since it's for per kilometer, multiply and divide by 1000 here. So when you multiply and divide by 1000 here, you'll get it for kilometer. So when you multiply, this becomes 10 to the power minus 3 here. And reactance of the transmission line is being asked here. So reactance XL is equal to 2 pi F into L here. So F is frequency. If they are not given in the problem, take it as a Indian standard frequency 50 Hertz here. L we have calculated 2.13 into 10 to the power minus 3 here. So substitute it, you will get a reluctance, which is ohm per. Since they have taken Henry per kilometer, this becomes ohms per kilometer. And next is mutual inductance problem. We'll just see what is that. So two coil, and hope you have understood what is mutual inductance. So two coils A and B with 800 and 1200 turns respectively are having a common magnetic circuit. A current of 0.5 ampere in coil A produces a flux of 3 millivapor and 50% flux links with coil B. Calculate L1, L2 and LB. So these same type of problem I have shared as a assignment 4, that is assignment 1 in your Google Classroom. I think most of you have solved that problem also by taking the guidance of the notes, but still I'll explain you. So in coil A, N1 number of turns is 800 and current passing through the coil A is given as 0.5 and flux linking coil A is 3 into 10 to the power minus 3 vapor. In coil B, number of turns is 1200. One more detail given in the problem is flux linking the coil B is 50% of flux linking with coil. That is, you can just 15% of flux links with coil B, which means that 50% of coil A flux is going to link with coil B. So that is what I have written, 50% of phi 1. Now what is phi 1 here? 3 into 10 to the power minus 3. So 50% of this is going to be 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 3. And you all know that one more formula, that is phi 1 2 by when you bring phi 1 to the denominator. So this value also represents the K value. Remember that also. So your 50% reflects the value of K here. So it is 0.5. So now we can calculate what is L1, N1 phi 1 by I1. So you can substitute it here. You'll get it here. And similarly, M can be calculated as N2 phi 2 1 you have calculated. I1, it is given in the problem. Next is, we don't know how to calculate L2 because for finding L2, I should know what is phi 2 and I2. That is not given in the problem. So you can go for this equation. M is equal to K square root of L1 L2. When you go for that equation, we can just find what is L2 from this. So same type of problem, it is discussed here also. Second problem, coil A and B are with 100 and 1500 turns lying in parallel planes, and it is found 50% of flux produced by coil A links with coil B. The current 3 ampere in coil A produces 0.3 millivapor, while the same current in coil B produces 0.6 millivapor. Calculate the mutual inductance between the coil and also calculate the self-inductance of the coil. So in coil A, N1 is given, I1 is given, phi 1 is given. In coil B, N2, I2, phi 2 is given. And one more detail also is given. Phi 1 2 is equal to 50% of phi 1 here. So you can calculate what is K also here. K is nothing but 50% 5 here. And you can calculate what is phi 1 2 also. So L1 formula, N1 I1 by I1, you can substitute it here. And L2 is N2 phi 2 I2, because in the problem they have given both the coil are carrying a current of 3 ampere. So N2 is given, I2 is given, phi 2 is given in the problem. So you can directly calculate L2. So since you know K from the data given, by using these three, you can calculate what is mutual inductance. So always try to write the data and try to do the problem based on that. And I thought of recollecting the third unit. In third unit, we have these are the topics here, and the important topics you have to learn here is magnetic field intensity due to solenoid. That is very, very important. And one more thing is magnetic field intensity due to infinite line charge is also important. Vector scalar magnetic potential, it may be asked as a 6 marks in part B question. And apart from this, we have Ampere's law and its application, force on a current element, force between two parallel conductor, and whatever I marked in red, that is important. That is force between two parallel conductor, torque on a closed circuit, that is also important. Yeah. So boundary condition, it's quite simple because we have already done the boundary condition in the second unit for the electric field. The same will continue for the magnetic surface also here. Thank you. So that's all for today's sections. So if any doubt, you can just use the Google Classroom and share it if you have any doubts in inductance of transmission line. Yeah, that's all for today's section. So whatever doubt you have, you just share it in the Google Classroom if you have any doubts.